Hey, what's up, team? Happy Friday. This is Eddie Gray, and today we're covering automation from all angles. If you want to learn how to use automation in Logic Pro, then go ahead and stay tuned. Let's go. What's up, guys? How you doing? Happy Friday. I hope this transmission finds you well. I'm so excited to be talking about the very best subject in the whole world, Logic Pro. Let's go. All right, guys. I'm feeling happy today. I'm feeling joy because we get to do what we love. In spite of all the external circumstances, we choose to come back to the place of learning, to come back to the dojo, because that's just what we do, right? As modern creatives, that's just what we do. Let's keep it going. All right. Very good, very good. Hey, we're talking about automation. My name is Eddie Gray, and this is brought to you by hfmusicacademy.com. And automation is, on the one hand, a very easy concept, right? Most of us can understand automation by online automation at the most basic level. But when you really start to look at the intricacies and when you really start to look at everything that's involved, I think that you too will think in a broader way, from a broader perspective when we go through this chapter. We're on chapter 15, if you could believe it, 6 days a week on resources for the modern creative. Go ahead and sub if you think what we're doing is awesome. And if you want to share this with somebody that you love, respect, then go ahead and share. All right, so we're talking about automation. Let's go. To create changes over time, to volume, pan, any effect settings, meaning any plugin parameter, you add automation point to a track's automation curve. Now, this language here is really interesting. They've been calling it an automation curve, which is really interesting, right? You can adjust automation points by moving them up or down to a new value, or by moving them left or right to a new point in the timeline. So the very first distinction that we're going to make is the language that Logic is using is automation curve. So we're just going to highlight that and distinguish. Look at it clearly. Okay, when they refer to these automation decisions, they're calling it curves, right? And then when you adjust automation points, you can move them up or down. So we know that we can increase the amplitude or reduce it. And then, of course, we know that we can change the position by moving from left to right in the timeline. Numerical values are going to be displayed alongside each of those nodes, N-O-D-E. You can also raise or lower the value of MIDI parameters. So when we're talking about MIDI CC, we can also adjust things such as aftertouch, sustain, so on and so forth. Note and numerical values are displayed alongside each MIDI data point. You can also add automation points at selection area or region borders. So we can add data to the left and the right border as well. There are key commands to do this. It's really nice. When splitting a region containing region-based automation, as you might have remembered from the last session, we have track automation and region-based automation. Automation points are automatically added to the automation curves of the original region and the new region at the point of the split. These new points can then be adjusted and moved to create new changes over time for the new region. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple ways to add some automation curves. So we're going to jump right in. Let's go. Good. All right, so the very first thing, to add an automation point to any empty automation curve, click anywhere in the automation track. So if I hit the key command A, let's see, in the case of like this one, for example, track number 7, it doesn't really look like anything's going on, right? It's just kind of, it looks like something's there, but I'm not sure how to turn on automation. You literally have to click one time, just like that. And now we can see the automation curve per the language that's used inside of the user guide, right? If I then switch over to, let's say, pan, for example, same thing. We know that the automation window is on. We know that the parameter is set to pan. But once we finally make that decision and we commit and we click one time inside of the tracks area, now we see the automation, in this case offline automation, begin to do its thing. So this is good. This works. What else can we do? If you double click an empty area, this is another way to create automation. So for example, if I'm here and I click, let's say right up here, right? I double clicked, and because the first automation point is by default contained at the very beginning of the project, right? We can see how it made that connection. So the second automation point is right here, as you can see, and I will double click away from that point here. This is where I have the pointer tool located. So I'll double click, and then now you'll see that another automation point or node has been created from that position. You don't have to do it away from, of course, you could do it right next to that point and it will create a node just like that. Okay, great. What else we got? Click on or outside the automation curve with the pencil tool. All right, so if I hit T and P, I can access the pencil tool. Conversely, we can go up here into the cursor menu and I can start clicking on or away from the automation curve to create automation with this tool, right? There's no one way to do it. If you want to create more detailed notes, you would click and hold, and you could do it like that. I'll hit TT, I'll highlight the selection, and then delete it. Okay, add a series of MIDI data points using region-based automation. Okay, and Logic Pro, the MIDI controller data parameter showing in the automation parameter pop-up menu. Drag a line across the portion of the region. New MIDI data is created if velocity is the chosen. Let's just cross that out. Strike through. MIDI controller data parameter. New MIDI data is created at every point at which notes intersect the line you drew. So what they're saying is, if you're choosing velocity, the behavior is going to look a little bit different. Now, we've made the distinction between track-based automation and region-based automation. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go to the previous video. And so, yeah, when we are dealing with region-based automation, we're talking about every individual region, that one, and that one, and that one, so on and so forth. So if I, for example, make a decision here, let me see if I can get this. Okay, good. And I create, let's say, so this is one velocity point, right? And looks like if I want to create another one, I would have to select the pencil tool. Let's see if this is right. I don't think it's working that way. Why not? Let's see. If velocity is the chosen MIDI controller parameter, new MIDI data is created at every point at which the notes intersect the line you drew. I wonder, here, let me go inside the piano roll. I'll click A, and so again, we're inside this menu. So we have, the reason it looks like this is because I have one note. It's legato, it's sustained from bar 9 to bar 13. Let's say we were to chop this up though, and I was to do it like that. Now, if you look at the region data, in this case, the MIDI CC, we could look at it inside the piano roll. And again, if we're inside of the tracks area, so long as we have region selected, then we can select the MIDI CC, in this case, note velocity. So that would be right there. And then now we can see all of these various points. So I can use the normal cursor tool to create this kind of diagonal line. Let's see if I can create, these different automation values, or we can use the pencil tool and draw them in like this. I don't know what the difference is particularly, but that's that. And let's keep going here. Page 611, add a series of automation points in Logic Pro. Click, drag, or option click, drag using the pencil tool. All right, let's try this out. I think I want to do this just with volume. So I said if you click and drag, you can kind of formulate this kind of automation. What happens if you option click? Oh, that's pretty cool. So this right here, and it looks like they Yeah, they actually are about to mention it. So when you option click drag utilizing the pencil tool, something very special happens. The organization of automation point depend on the pencil tool settings in the preferences. So when we go into the preferences, let's see if we go into automation, and they're not telling you where it is here, but if we go into pencil tool, hold option for stepped editing or hold option for curved editing. So if I hold option with the pencil tool selected now, what's going to happen is that, hold on, let's see if it will oblige. I'm holding option. No, it's not. It's not helping. It's not working. Yeah, I think actually it's the opposite. But here, let's read. If you hold option with stepped editing, you can use this kind of step square-like shape. Whereas if you don't do it this way, right? Let's say we're just back to default. We're just creating the normal automation kind of diagonal lines that we're used to. So it looks like, based on the behavior here, that as soon as I go into curved editing, the standard is or becomes the step editing, unless no. And if I hold option, let me just check. Yeah, I'm not seeing any consistency there. Let's read here. So I know that when we select stepped editing, we have the pencil tool selected. If I option click, it creates a series of automation points that are in a stepped formation. But when we have the other mode selected, option click dragging creates a series of automation points in a automation points in a step form. And option click dragging creates a series of automation points. Am I wrong? Does this say the exact same thing? In this mode, click dragging with the pencil tool creates a series of automation points in step form. Okay. And then option click dragging creates a series of automation points in a stepped formation. That sounds like the exact same thing. So not sure what's going on here, but I'm very clear on what's happening here. But yeah, there's something going on with curved editing that does not seem clear at all. Again, we'll try one more time. If we go to that, I hold option, and you know what? Another thing, just to be 100% clear, you should have just a straight line. All right, I'm holding option, and let's see. Oh, now this is happening. Hold on. Pencil tool selected. Oh, that's what it was, I think. Okay, so back, we're here. And I'll select curved editing. All right, let's see what happens here. Oh, wait, pencil tool is selected. Yeah, so it's the opposite. And again, they don't tell you this. It's so confusing. But basically, the opposite behavior happens. So you can either work with stepped editing by default, or you can have it be the opposite behavior, where when you're not holding option, you're using stepped editing, and when you hold option, you're using the regular format. So it's up to you how you want to do that. I suggest you leave it there because it's very confusing otherwise. This right here is certainly a ding because it's just way too confusing. Like, you know, even just the language, the fact that it's repeated here. Again, if you're a new user, that would be really challenging. I mean, look, I've been doing this for 7 years, and even myself worked with hundreds, thousands of clients, and still, it's too challenging. It should be very clear. So yeah, we're gonna cross this out. It needs to be updated for sure. Add automation points, add marquee borders. My favorite of the bunch. Really easy. If I have the marquee tool selected as my secondary tool, I hit TT to bring me back to the primary tool, hold command, and I create a marquee selection. If I drag up or down, creates 4 automation points at the borders, in which case I could now, you know, raise this up, drop it down. It's really nice. What a great workflow there. All right. Looks like there are key commands that you can utilize as well. I did these in the last video, so you can check that out. Add automation points at selection borders. So looks like there's a way to add one automation point at each selection border by control shift dragging across the tracks area. So we got to try this one out. So we're going to hit the keyboard modifier, control shift, and we're going to drag, and let's see what this does for us, okay? Now, in order to delete this automation, I'm going to go into, let's see, we'll go into mix, we'll go into delete automation, and we'll delete all automation on this particular track. So now everything has been set to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a blank value. Now this is where we left it last, at a value of 2.8. Let's reset that to default by option clicking the volume slider. You can see now that it's back to 0. And now in the user guide, it says to control shift. And what this is going to do is add one automation point at each selection border. So control shift, I click one time. Okay. I didn't see anything different than the normal behavior, which is if I wouldn't have done that, it would have still created that automation point. So again, control shift. Yeah, not seeing anything different for some reason. So control shift drag across the tracks area. Okay, I'll try that one more time. Nothing. Control shift drag. This is the automation curve tool, which I know is dedicated to creating these curves, and you can hit the keyboard modifier, or you can select the tool inside of the tool menu. Yeah, the automation curve tool. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what this means. I think this is archaic, I gotta be honest. So let's strike through. If you want to add two automation points, and again, it's like I don't know if they mean with the pencil or not, so maybe that's what it was, but still needs to be updated. Control Shift Option drag across the tracks there. So Control, wait, hold on, let me get that. Control Shift Option. So Control Shift Option. All right. Okay, that's cool. Did you catch that? That is cool. Control Shift and Option. You create a selection, and it creates within that selection 2 points. And then I guess if you want to, you can go up and down. So that's the equivalent of what I showed you before utilizing the marquee tool, right? So you could do it this way, or you can just control shift option and then create a selection. Now the benefits of the marquee is that it's going to be precise. And if you need something a bit looser, then you can utilize this technology here. I actually like that one a lot. So I'm going to highlight that. Now that I understand how to use it, let's see if I can go back and control shift drag. One more time, control shift, and I'll just drag. Nope. One last time, control shift, nothing. So I don't know what, I don't know what the difference is. I don't know if that's what they literally mean, but again, I could just click one time and yield the same results. So that is null and void. Adjust automation points. Drag an automation point up or down to change its value. I think that's obvious. Drag an automation point to the left or right if you want to change its position. Use the ruler to make sure automation points are aligned with a beat or a measure. And I will take that further. Instead of just using the ruler to give you a sense of where this is going to land, you can use alignment guides to help you with that. But also you can use snap automation, which is probably the most efficient of the bunch. If I go into active, right now, wherever I move this, it will kind of lay or follow a musical value. So this is probably the cleanest way of doing this without necessarily having to know exactly what you're doing. All right, so let's continue on here. We're adjusting MIDI values, but not with track-based automation. We're going to utilize region-based automation. All right, so I have note value selected here, and so we know how that works. Depends on how many notes are selected. That's how we can change the value. With this first region, we have several notes, and so we're changing the value velocity of each and every one of those notes, whereas with the second region, we have just one note, and hence so we just have one velocity value, okay? All right, so we know we can drag up or down. I will say it's kind of challenging when you have just one note velocity to grab this thing. It can be, I don't know, the flow is a little strange to me. So I wonder if maybe we can choose the automation select tool, and that might be a little easier to work with. Let me just, no, not necessarily. Just trying to find like the easiest way to do this. Yeah, that's certainly not it. Yeah, I guess you just drag this where you want it, but it's a cumbersome workflow. If you want to drag the value up or down, you can as well. Of course, that's kind of easy to do with this one because it's easy to grab that node. But with this one, it's kind of in here and it's not as easy to do. So I was just seeing if there was maybe another workflow. But good. Let's keep moving. You can adjust the automation data for an entire track in one go. All right. How do I do this? If the track is part of the group and if the relevant settings are selected in the group inspector, the track automation data across all the tracks are adjusted accordingly. However, the relative parameter values of each track are maintained. All right. So if you want to change everything and just use a quick offset, use trim. Why would you use this when you would use this for the entire track, either a partial selection, multiple selected tracks, or multiple selected subtracks? Can we go over this? Are they gonna talk to us about this? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so let's let me read this section and then we'll test this whole bit out. So in Logic Pro, after making your selection, place the pointer over the numerical value, what they call trim automation, then drag vertically to change the value, right? So we kind of know this already. Like if we're inside of, let's say volume, and let's say you've created a bunch of choices here. I know there's nothing on the screen, but if I hit Control Shift Option, like we just learned earlier, we can create these great little selections here. And then if I go to trim automation right there, I can go ahead and drag this down or up. See, it's all coming down together. Of course, these can be aberrant and spontaneous, in which case everything will follow, right? Just it's all coming together. Okay. So let's Command Z all of that. If the trim field is not visible, hover or position the pointer over the line dividing the track. Then drag the line left or right to resize the track header. Drag the line left or right to resize the track header. So basically what they're saying is, hey, if you can't see trim, the reason is because your track is too small, right? And you need to reposition, resize it by hovering the pointer over the track header and then drag it across, and here is trim. All right, so this is all good. And, oh wait, I want to test these values out. So with trim, we know we can affect the entire track. I just showed you. Let's affect a partial selection. So let's say I only want to change the value here. If I use trim, will it only adjust those values? No, it adjusts everything else. So I say that's fairly confusing because we're talking about trim behavior and they're not telling us what exactly is going on. Now, of course, I showed you earlier that you can trim in this fashion, but again, we need some more clarity. Multiple selected tracks. So let's say I want to trim volume for 4 tracks. If I click on one of the trim automation menus, again, I'm not seeing all of them change. I'm just seeing one of them change. Perhaps if I hold Shift, why am I having to guess here? Yeah, this needs to be updated. It's not going to work. To adjust automation points 4, and maybe it's because I don't have automation. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, right? This is what we have to do. But yeah, I don't think we need to try that hard. I think a lot of this needs to kind of be spelled out, especially for my beginners. Yeah, you see? Oh, so this is exactly why you are watching this. This is why you subscribed. This is why you're taking notes. This is why you're sharing, because it's the application. You see, I'm kind of making the mistakes and going through this for you and with you, and so that you don't have to take 3 more months to learn such a simple concept. You don't have to take 3 more weeks, right, watching 50 more videos. We could just uncover everything now, and you can be in the flow and get back to the music. So they should have said that, right? Hey, you can trim the behavior if you have automation points, right? It's I don't know, it's like a weird relationship with the program and the language, and it almost feels like somebody else wrote this that did not engineer the program. And so it'd be nice to have a marriage between both of these. So yeah, we know that we can trim the behavior of multiple selected tracks if the automation points are active, and then finally multiple selected sub tracks. So maybe they're talking about track stacks or something, but again, I'm not sure, right? Because they're saying sub tracks. So what does that mean? But yeah, I assume it's the same as this. Okay, this is clear. Happy about that. Hold on, let me read this. When you release the mouse button, the numerical display reverts to showing the value of the active automation parameter at the playhead position. That seems interesting. So wait, if I... Oh, that is cool. Okay. And again, very simple concept, but here, let's resize that. So what they're saying here is when you do trim, notice that the playhead is currently on bar 5, yeah? And when you trim, as soon as you let go of the mouse, which I'll do now, the value that's being read is what the playhead is currently hovering over, which in this case, it's a value of -13. But if the playhead were over, let's say, bar 9, the value that's being read inside of this menu is -2.3. So that's an interesting little relationship there. I guess I'll highlight it. 613, recording live automation. Let's do this and then we'll wrap it up for today. And remember, I'll catch you guys tomorrow, so make sure you hit that notification bell so we can go over all of these details. When either touch, latch, or this one that doesn't exist to you, watch the last video for reference. When either touch, latch is active, you can record automation in record or playback mode. We've been through this already as well. It's interesting that we're having to do it again. When you touch or move a parameter, the automation lane displays the chosen parameter and automation is recorded at the current point in the project as the playhead moves based on the chosen mode. So we have a couple of different modes, and they're all going to affect how automation is played back, how it's recorded. When you're not recording or playing, the modes are ignored. So if you're not recording or playing and you turn on latch automation, it's going to basically be ignored and no data is written. Now, that's not true. Well, I'll put it to you this way. If the playback is moving and you're inside of write automation, it's going to record over your automation depending on where your settings are. So I'm not exactly sure what they mean here. Do they mean playing back or playing an instrument, adjusting parameters? But write automation will record over your track even if you're just playing back and the mode is just on and you're not doing anything. If you hit spacebar or play, it will in fact start recording over your settings. Okay, move any fader control when you're inside of touch or latch and automation begins. We don't have to hit record. Just hit spacebar, you're in it. In real world usage, you'll rarely, if ever, use the destructive write mode. See, they're even telling you. You see how this is stuff I've been preaching the last couple of weeks. Like, don't pay attention to write. You don't need write. It's only going to confuse things, right? It's saying, hey, you're rarely, if ever, going to use this destructive, this diabolical write mode, right? The standard write modes are touch and latch. So I primarily, especially for my beginners, I want you to focus on touch and latch, and that's it. Choose a parameter, right? Volume, panning, wet, dry, and then start making your adjustments. Just the numerical display in the track header with one of the modes turned on. Move the faders or knobs, and then you're basically good to go. You can also use offline automation and use the pointer or pencil tool to draw your automation curve. Okay. I wonder if you could do this live as well. I don't know if I've ever tried that. So let me use latch automation, and I'll use the pencil tool. Let me just press play here. Yeah, I guess so. Not sure why you would do it that way, but anyway, that's an option as well. And when you record region-based, remember that the automation data is written not to the track, but to the regions themselves. And when you record region-based automation and multiple tracks are assigned, the following conditions determine if the automation is recorded. Okay, so if you are going to record automation and there's multiple tracks that have this, like there are some settings that you have to listen to. If one track is selected, region-based automation only writes the automation to regions on that one track. Okay, got it. If there are selected regions on one of the tracks, region-based automation only writes to those selected regions. And if no tracks or regions are selected, region-based automation only writes to the region most recently created. You can specify the mode of the application switches so to after a write operation has been performed. Yeah, so what they're saying here is that, wait, not there. Let me do this. Automation. You see how it says write mode changes to latch? So if by mistake you happen to go to write, what it's saying here is that Logic will kind of do something about it and says it'll kind of try to steer you in the right direction. So I wish this was just off to begin with, but here, check this out. Like if I use write automation, the destructive of the bunch, I press play. See how it says, hey, warning, don't do this. In most cases, you should use latch or touch, right? And so then when I start to utilize it, let's see if I start doing this. All right, good. So, and then now it's back to latch. So, I think that's just a safety measure. They're not saying it here. You can specify the mode that the application switches to after a write operation has been performed. Yeah, they're not saying exactly why it does that. Maybe so you don't write over it or something. But anyway, that's there. So you might want to just set that to off. I never use write, but I just don't want this on in general. All right, if one track is selected, only writes the automation regions to the regions on that track. If there are selected regions on one of the tracks, region-based automation only writes to those selected regions. So yeah, I'm not sure if they're talking about, like let's say we wanted to record region-based automation for this track and this track. And I'm not sure if they're like talking about, let's say using, we learned this yesterday as well. If we hold shift, we can change, yeah, I was doing this yesterday. It's not supposed to change it for everything. It's supposed to just change it for these two. But for some reason, oh, I'm sorry. That's because I held shift. If you hold, wait, okay, let's go back here. So if you hold shift and you change a mode, it changes everything, okay? And then what I was trying to do here was just change the automation for these two tracks. Don't hold shift and then go to latch, and then that'll change that. Okay, so if I perform automation here, let's see what happens. So notice that the main track out of this selection, there's two tracks selected, but the main one is track 4. And how I change that key focus is by holding shift and clicking on the next one. So I'll press play and I'll adjust the volume of this top track. All right, so it went to track automation. Let me go one more time. I'll try region automation. Let's see if it switches back. I'll just do it here. It's not doing anything now because I'm not inside of the region. I'm really curious if it's going to record region automation when the playhead covers the region. Let's see. All right. So yeah, it looks like as long as the playhead moves over the regions, you can record region automation on 2 separate tracks. See here, it's interesting. It says if one track is selected, it only writes to the region. If there are selected regions on one of the tracks, region-based automation only writes to those select. Okay, well, this is just obvious stuff. They're just saying, hey, if you select this one, you're writing automation on this region. Yeah, I got it. Give me something else. If no track or regions are selected, region-based automation only writes to the regions that's most recently created. Yeah, I need some more information on that. 613. Let's see. Let's do a couple more. Let me just see how many pages this is. 614. Okay, let's just introduce it and we'll cover it next time. I just don't want to rush and I got some meetings here. After you create automation points and curves, you can easily change things to meet your needs. So let's say you perform some automation. It's not perfect, right? You really want to hone in on it, which you should, by the way. If there's an entire chapter dedicated to this, and actually there's like almost 2 chapters if you think about the last session we did, then it's important to spend some time really learning this and crafting this. You can copy the automation within a track or between tracks and can move automation within a track. So that's important, learning how to copy these settings over. When moving regions, you can choose whether or not to move any existing automation with it. You guys might have remembered I showed you my setting. I believe it was up here somewhere under mix. And, oh geez, where was that setting? Where it tells you to ask, move track automation, right? Set this up so it always does it. If you're sure that's how you want it, which I am actually, but because instructing and mastering this program, I want to make sure that I understand every facet. So sometimes I'll just change something to kind of challenge myself. So now I want it to ask me so that if I move this over anywhere, it says, hey, do you want to move the automation data? And you can say yes or no. In this case, I'll say yes, but then I'll Command Z this to bring it back. Select automation, drag across any selection to select these. If you click the automation curve with the automation select tool, we can actually select these points. So let me zoom in a little tighter, my good friends. Notice I have latch automation on with both of these. I have a key command associated with turning this off, Control, Option, Command L, and then now both of these have been turned off. And so if I want to select one of these nodes, of course, I can just create a selection like that. But again, the smoothest way is to select the automation select tool, and that will just in a very clean and concise fashion select these nodes for me. See if there's anything else. If you want to select non-contiguous, non-connected, hold down Shift and drag across multiple non-contiguous. So for example, I can select that one. I can select that one and these two, and I'll select that one as well. So now we've created a couple of different points, and then if I wanted to increase the amplitude or decrease it, we can do that. Let's do one last one. If you hold down Shift and click multiple non-contiguous automation points and curves with the pointer or the automation select tool. So as long as you hold Shift, it looks like even if you're utilizing the pointer tool, I can click on that one. I'm going to hold Shift, click on that one, and again, we're selecting multiple non-contiguous automation curves or points. So the difference between those two is you can also create selections, which is pretty sweet. Like I hold Shift and I select that one, but then I want to select maybe these two. So holding Shift while doing this is very much something that you're going to need to do. Tomorrow, when I see you, when we hang out, when we talk shop, we're going to talk about selecting specific automation values within a time range. Next level stuff. Looks like we're going to learn how to properly copy automation. All right, and so we all need that. And then finally, we're going to adjust these automation curves symmetrically. So I have a really nice trick for you in terms of manipulating these curves to bend and fit your style. We're literally going to bend the curves, and looks like we'll go over some stepped automation, deleting automation, best practices there, and snapping automation to the grid. I wanted to thank you for another opportunity. We were doing this 6 days a week, and it's really been just such an awesome experience top to bottom. The point is that you see what it looks like on a day-to-day, whether you feel entirely confident, whether you don't feel entirely confident, whether you feel like doing it, whether you don't feel like doing it, whether it gets overwhelming, whether it doesn't. You keep showing up, and if you keep showing up, I'm telling you, right, things are just going to develop, things are just going to unfold the way that they need to. So just keep pushing. It's really simple. Just keep pushing, keep doing what you're doing, all right? And when it's all said and done, right, we're on page what, 6, page 15 or something like that. So once we get to page, I think it's 1200 or 1300, somewhere in that world. Once we get to that point, you'll look back, you realize, wow, we just climbed Mount Everest together. Thank you, Eddie. This is amazing that we got this done. Never in my life would I thought I would have gone through this, but we did it together. You know, I'm here for you. You got to remember that. I'm not here for me. I love this program, but I could just do this in the privacy of my own home. I do it as a way to give, to make sure that you're held accountable, and to make sure that you get your music production to the next level. This is how it's going to happen day by day by day. So again, thank you so much for being here. You're creating this experience. You're creating this world. So much love, much respect. Remember to sub, remember to share, and I'll catch you tomorrow. See ya. Happy Friday. Stay up, y'all. Let's go! Let's go.